days in, 3 days out, or 3 days in, 2 days out, and it's kind of remained that way. But it was, yeah, it was really hard to do the job with limited staff.
I'd like to call the regular meeting of the city of Ione, August 20th to order. Janice, can we have roll call, please?
Member Mitchell,
Here.
Member Rhodes,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ratten,
Here,
and Mayor Levine.
Here.
And I understand that Councilmember Atlin's out tonight.
Yes, he's
with illness.
ill. And we're thankful he didn't come
Bring
and
it to
share it
us
with
all.
all of us. On item B, closed session conference with real property negotiators and conference with labor negotiators. I would like to move that to the end of the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, stands for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Feel like you're kissing the flag over there, don't
I know. Okay, item B, report out of closed session will be moved. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
All in favor?
I,
Next, we're going to move to item D, presentations announcements. First is Mr. Jim Rooney, our county assessor.
Excuse me. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Rooney. I'm our county assessor. And I'd like to come before each jurisdiction, each city, school board and water agency, at least once a year to let them know how the assessments and values are doing in their jurisdictions. And oh, good, you have it up. I have a PowerPoint. And the stuff I'm telling you, the information I'm giving you is as of the 2024 assessment year. However, they were values that will be reflected on this coming year's tax bill. So can you go to the next slide? These assessments, they're reflected on next year's tax bill, and these are the Prop 13 adjustment. Prop 13 allows taxes to go up a maximum of 2% in a year. And every property that didn't have a change of ownership or new construction throughout the county went up 2% last year. The 2% is based on the California Consumer Price Index, and that was well in excess of 2% last year. So everything in the county went up that wasn't new construction or change in ownership went up 2% last year. Can you go to the next slide? For the Amador County last year, it wasn't much of an increase. It was 3.57%. And, you know, that's not very much. Getting a little ahead of it. Generally, the assessments have been going up 6 to 8% a year over the past few years. And this year in Ione, the increase was nearly 6%. And that's a pretty healthy growth. You can even go to the next slide. What that shows, this is hard to read. Even I need my glasses for this one. You know, throughout the county last year, Ione had the highest increase of any jurisdiction at nearly 6%. Sutter Creek, it's in the green, it's highlighted in green. Sutter Creek was 4.4%. Jackson was 4.15%. Plymouth, 4.75%. The interesting thing is the unincorporated area of the county is about 2/3 of all the homes in the county, and it went up less than 3%. It was essentially the lowest growing area of the county. And another thing that became evident this last year is Ione recently has surpassed Jackson as the highest assessed value in the county. It was last year, it kind of eked by. There's a lot more growth in it just indicates a lot more growth in the Ione area. And, you know, when I talked about that 3.57% increase, 2% of that was an automatic. The other 1.5% was either new construction or change of ownership. And in Ione, essentially, it indicates more activity. There are some sales, but there's also more building going on in Ione than anywhere else. At least there has been. And it is slowing down. Things are getting built out. Ione is, the very bottom line shows Ione is 10.75% of the whole county, whereas Jackson now is 10.1%. The unincorporated area is nearly 70%. Oh, as we were doing the assessments this last year, we were looking at values. Excuse me. The assistant assessor, Jeff Himmelman, Jeff, come on up. He's here also. And we were talking about, this is Jeff, he's the assistant assessor.
Jeff.
We were talking about, we were looking at the number of residences in the county. And he pointed out to me, he says, you know, this last year, can you go to the next slide? The total number of new residences in the county as a whole was only 49. Of that, 32 were in Ione. We were in Jackson a few nights ago, and Jackson, they had a report from Sacramento County about Sacramento County wants to build out, where is it, between Bradshaw?
Yeah, the south side of Highway 16 between Sunrise and Bradshaw.
But they were, they're estimating they're gonna build out, was 100,000 new homes in that area.
Never gonna get to work.
I know.
100,000 new homes, and then we come and tell them that, by the way, there's 49 new homes in Amador County. And, you know, we're pointing that out, and what's interesting about this chart is if you look at Sutter Creek, there were no new homes last year. Jackson actually had one fewer home. And we count homes in two ways. We have primary residences and there's total residences. There are, like it says on the chart, there's 8,431 primary residences in the county. There's 15,483 residences total. And what's interesting is, see the total county, the primary residences. A primary residence is a house that somebody claims as that's the main place we live. This is where essentially our main house. And the number of primary residences has gone down. There are essentially fewer homeowners living in their primary residence. Some of that could be people are buying second homes. There's rentals. It doesn't necessarily mean there's less people or families, but it's an interesting indication that fewer people have primary residences in the county. And in Ione, we're showing 1,155 primary residences, up 21. And this is just information we thought would be interesting to all the jurisdictions. And we're not pointing that out as something good or bad, but it's an interesting number. Somebody mentioned, well, are you promoting growth? No, we're not promoting growth or saying it's good or bad. Is it stagnation? Not necessarily. We have a community up here that is essentially pretty stable. And anything else on that, Jeff?
No.
Okay. The next slide. A few years ago, the state, we passed a Prop 19. And a Prop 19 transfer, it's interesting. It's anybody in the state of California over the age of 55 has a primary residence. That's where primary residence is important. They can sell their primary residence in any county and move to another county and take their Prop 13 value with them. The Prop 13 value is generally kind of low because an assessment can't go up more than 2% a year. So what we saw early on was there were these transfers, people coming from the Bay Area. An example that I saw early on was there was a lady in the Bay Area. She sold her house. Her house, first of all, had $100,000 assessed value on it. She had bought it in like 1982 for about 65,000. Over those years, it went up 2% a year. It was about $100,000 or $120,000. She sold it for $1.4 million. She moves to Amador County. She brings that $100,000 assessment to Ione. Buys a $500,000 house, keeps the $100,000 assessment. And that's on top of the $900,000 net gain. And we were afraid that was going to result in a lot of essentially excluded assessments and revenue. And in 2020, but as we started doing some of the analyzing, Jeff did most of this. He's been keeping track. The excluded assessments was about over $10 million throughout the county. But property tax is 1% of the total assessed value, so that's $100,000. And the county's, the school receives about better than 60% of the property tax dollar. So the county's portion of this was about $32,000. That doesn't really seem like all that much, and it's not necessarily. The prior year, when there was more activity, there was the equivalent of $43,000 in lost revenue to the county. And essentially those two are added, so it's close to 75,000 now. And next year it'll increase, although some people will come off that Prop 19. Anyway, the last thing I had for you was Prop 13. As I told you before, Prop 13, everybody who has a house, we value it at some point. The value that we put on, people pay property taxes on. And that value can't go up more than 2% a year. And some people have said, isn't this suppressing values, reducing values, revenues to jurisdictions? And there's three numbers to remember. From 1980 to 1923, the California population has gone up 65.24%. And these numbers are from the state. There's no arguing with these numbers. Inflation index has gone up 290%. While revenue from property taxes in that same time period has gone up over 1,000%. So I'm here to tell you the Prop 13, whereas it's certainly not perfect, it's very stabilizing, especially for elderly who will know within 2% what their property taxes will be in the next year. There were some years where property values were going up 15, 20%. However, assessments were only going up 2%. And at the same time, in 2007, 8, and 9, when property values were going down, property values went down about 40%. However, assessments only went down 10%. It would be quite a hit if property assessments and revenues to jurisdictions went down 40%. So actually, Prop 13 is very stabilizing. And it does show that revenues from property taxes has far outpaced inflation and population throughout the state. So anyway, that's all we have right now. All right, any questions? I'd like to say if there's any questions or concerns, let me know. If you have any problems, ask for Jeff when you call Jeff. Anyway, that's kind of what we have. So,
Okay. Thank you, Jim and Jeff.
all right, we will see you next year
Okay,
at the same time. All right, see you later.
thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Our next presentation is an award to Johnny Stewart by John Alfred, Police Chief.
Move that up a little bit for you. Seemed like you're a little crushed back there. Thank you, City Council and the public for being here tonight. Tonight, we want to honor Johnny Stewart for his assistance on a call. So on July 25th, Corporal Andriola responded to a violation of a restraining order over on Buena Vista and West Marlette area. Corporal Andriola contacted the subject, who we are very aware of. In fact, if you read my report, this call's actually in there. So Corporal Andriola contacted him, went to take him into custody, and the fight was on. During the fight, Corporal Andriola ended up on the ground with the suspect. His radio flew off, his body camera flew off. And it was amazing because I hadn't heard from him. I'm in the office, so I grabbed my cell phone, which has the two-way radio on it, and I end up getting him up on that. But while this happened, Johnny was driving by, saw what was happening, stopped, got out of his vehicle and went up and assisted Corporal Andriola and actually picked up the radio and called for help. So tonight we want to honor John for your assistance with that call. So I'm going to read this. So this is a certificate of appreciation for your service to the Ione Police Department and the citizens of the city of Ione on July 25th, 2024. You came to the aid of Corporal Andriola during a fight with a suspect and assisted getting other units to his location. We appreciate your dedication during this incident and are grateful for citizens like you.
Good job, Johnny.
Well done.
Done, Johnny.
Okay, next we are going to open up public comment for any item not on the agenda.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Anderson. I'm a resident of Ione and have been since 2018. The reason I decided to speak tonight is I usually watch the city council meetings from home. And I've seen some of the dynamics on the council. And it has actually not been pleasant at times. So I decided to take a look at something in particular. As you may or may not know, at one point, our mayor had the arena and did her horse shows, her training, et cetera, in the arena. So I went back and took a look at this. And if you look at the numbers, the Allison owes $33,998 to the city of Ione. And what that means is that she was paying monthly on the bill, and we forgave 6 months back in early 2020 due to what was going on then. And then December, she paid October 20, November 20, and then from December 20 to August 21st, no payment. Then September 21st, October 21st payments, and then no payments after that time. So the total that is due Ione by our mayor is $33,998.92. And that disturbs me. We're a small town, and I'm wondering if anybody is actually working with her to pay that bill. Thank you.
Seems like that came from you, Mr. Rhodes. Do you want to comment on that?
Nobody should comment on it.
Okay.
Larry Rhodes, a while back, you talked about contractors and liability for the city. Every contractor is licensed. He's got a bond. He's got to have a license. That's a state law. So he's covered in the city. I don't know where you get it if you don't have a contract. If the contractor and the person you're talking about, if I think you're right, if they come right, excuse me, is how many emergencies you guys, you might be here, but I can remember in 84, 97, this guy dumped gravel with his truck on the highway and helped raise the level. And he wasn't told anything to do that. He did it on his own. And you guys want to condemn this person. That's a crock. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Any other public comment for items not on the agenda? Anyone on Zoom, John? Okay, we're going to close public comment. Item F is information items only. We'll move to the consent calendar. I would like to pull item 1, the warrants for discussion on the regular agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar items 2, 3, and 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll talk about that as number 1. We received some correspondence today from Weber Geo. They have submitted their final bill. And I see Jody here. Is there an opportunity that we can make a motion now to pay that final bill for Weber Geo?
Yes, you can add to the warrant list. The warrant list that's in the agenda is for information purposes.
Okay. Great.
For clarification, all the bills or just the one that we denied last?
The ones that are itemized on the correspondence we received this morning. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next we're gonna go to,
Madam Mayor,
yes,
did you want to take action on that item or you have more to report?
no, I
Oh,
don't have
okay.
more to report. Do
Uh,
we need to take action? I
yes,
thought
ma'am.
we would just add it to the warrants.
Yeah, but to take action on, we pulled the warrants out of the consent
Okay,
in order to take
can I
action.
get a motion to approve the payment, the final submission by Weber Geo.
I will make a motion to approve the warrants and to add to the warrants the outstanding invoices received today.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is a presentation by Jay Careful on Rotary Club parking project.
Yes, Ms. Mayor, council members, this was tonight going to be an informational presentation only, but through the concerted efforts of Mr. Mitchell, the city engineer, Jay Kerfel, Ione Rotary, staff, and Mr. Tom Borges, they were able to come up with some concrete solutions. So therefore, if the council so desired, they could make a recommendation and move forward because all the requirements have been met. So this is regarding the Ione parking lot project at the Howard Park. And again, we didn't originally have a staff report on this because we didn't have enough information. But again, through their efforts, they were able to get this together in the last minute. So-
Well, and part of that is my problem because I saw that the Parks and Rec did not make their special meeting on Thursday, and I know that they were trying to hit this meeting.
Correct,
So I asked that we put it on our agenda
correct.
to see what we could do. We're gonna be a little strapped as far as administrative wise because
Sure.
we don't have a staff report.
Right. So again, this is for informational purposes, so you
But
can
we
do
can't
with-
take action on information
Right.
only. But
So,
let's
ho-
see what we can do.
Hopefully, Mr.
Yeah.
Mitchell's report helps.
We've,
So,
we've got our city engineer here. I know it's very important to the city. Everybody wants it done,
okay,
but I can't guarantee.
Sure. Mr. Herpel,
Okay, go ahead, Jake.
it's yours.
I'm here representing the Ione Rotary, the Ione Business Association, and hopefully the city of Ione. The paperwork that I hope that everybody got a copy was sent, it's a three-way thing. The two clubs have each raised $20,000, which for little clubs our size, that's an awful lot of money. And when you put on a steak dinner or whatever and raise $7,000 to $8,000 and still have all your other things to do it. So we're making quite a commitment to it. I met with city people. I met with engineers on the project and stuff, trying to get some idea of what this may involve. And I submitted a rough draft of that to you. Again, this is a rough draft, but I'm hoping that you will approve our version of it so we can go forward and make this happen. It is, for people that don't know, it'll make about 100 parking places between the rodeo entrance and Evelyn Bishop Hall, which will, for a lot of things, get a whole lot of cars off the road. And that's our goal. So again, it's a public-minded group. I'm gonna say something that a lot of you don't like. A lot of it will be done with volunteers. There may be a few paid people, but most of it will be done on a volunteer basis. And we'll all sign a release form that the city supplies, so the city will be not liable for everything, but that's the only way we can do this is by moving forward with donations of equipment, donations of time, and the organizations will pay for the product as long as there's money, which is, the culvert pipe, gravel and stuff like that. So the monies will be paying the bills. And then at the very end, like I said, we don't know because we haven't had an approved project what the exact cost of this will be. But at the very end, maybe the city of Ione needs to kick in a few dollars. But that's what we're proposing. Right now, the creek is dry, has been for quite a while. It's people we've talked to said it's ideal to work there now. That comes in winter, when it starts running, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
The creek, even if we don't do this project, the city needs to address the creek. It's filtered in, it's about half capacity. So anyway, that's what I have to say. I hope you all saw the pictures I presented to you. And if you have questions, I'm very happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Jake. Council, any clarifying questions before we open it up to public comment?
Parks has not seen this?
We went to Parks and Regulations of it. And that was part of the reason they called the special meeting. So they could try to finalize it. So I did make the same presentation. They all had the pictures. We went through it item by item, talked about it and stuff. And they had some questions they wanted to clarify for themselves. But then due to the fact that the meeting that they could call the special one, this is one of, I understand, 3 or 4 things they wanted to recommend to the board and or the council. And so that's why it didn't happen. We were hoping to by the time it came here, we would have had their blessing. But
So
I felt when I left that night, we had their blessing for a few minor things that came up.
So Parks has not made a recommendation on this.
No.
It has not as yet.
Not that I know.
They couldn't have their special meeting on Thursday or
Uh,
last Thursday. Is that why?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And why didn't they have their special meeting?
the agenda was not posted,
So
which the
happens.
special meeting is
Right.
required to be posted.
does.
I don't know.
just like this most meeting had to be posted.
Yeah,
It's-
and it has
it's
to
a-
be posted.
It's a procedure. And somewhere it fell through the cracks and that didn't happen.
Okay,
But,
was this an emergency meeting or was this a
It was
planned
a
meeting?
Special emergency meeting because our project, and I believe 2 or maybe 3 others, were asking to make it to you by tonight because they thought they were time urgents. So when we left the meeting, the Parks and Recreation people felt it was urgent to post a special emergency meeting. And like I said, that was supposed to be, I guess, Thursday, whatever day it was, last week. So it'd have time to get to you folks to see it. But due to an error, it didn't happen. Again, I was asked to make an information presentation to you tonight. I understand there may be some other things going on with it that it may move forward. I don't know, but I'm doing my part representing the 2 nonprofits. And there's people here from them also. I can tell you that I'm not
Yeah.
telling too many stories. But
I think what part of what you're trying to say is there's a lot of equipment there right now to assist in getting the job done. I know that the ad hoc committee has been trying to get that drainage ditch that runs from the pond around the horse arena, because you're right, in the wintertime it floods the road. It floods the warm-up pen. And so that project had sort of been in the works over here. And then I was speaking with Andrea and the project sort of joined. So the emergency, I guess, if you could call it, is there's equipment there now. I believe, I don't know if Mr. Borch there he is here tonight. It's his equipment from Wildflower.
that's the only equipment I know that's near the site.
Yeah,
When I went and measured the culverts, there's 2 parallel 30 and 36-inch culverts.
Mhm.
They're both on the city side and on Caltrans side, half full of dirt.
Yeah.
So that, like you say, all needs to be addressed, whether this project goes forward or not. Yeah.
Maybe the city engineer and Mr. Borges can comment on.
yeah, that's
Their
great that they're
comments?
here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Good evening, everyone. Thomas Borges, Axios Homes, Madam Mayor, and other members of the council. Wanted to just speak to you concerning how I became involved in the project, and the mayor is correct. We do have a large amount of equipment. We've been working on the school project, and I met with both. First, I want to say, anytime the Rotary is involved and they commit $20,000, and the ICB or IBCA commits $20,000, that's a big commitment. And really, we should always follow the procedure, but there's exceptions to every rule. And I want to just present it to you, and then you guys can decide on your own. Really what we've come to find out is there was a few administrative issues that Jonathan can speak to. There was federal issues, there was state issues. I would never want to go ahead and be involved in a project and get something done for the city and then leave the city behind the 8 ball and worried about how that would rear its ugly head down the road. So I'll let Jonathan speak to that. We spent the last 2 days trying to keep our heads down and making sure that all those items could be addressed. Really, my part in the situation comes down to, we would be able to donate, and I think we could make up the difference so there would be no cost to the city. We would love to help the Rotary go ahead and accomplish their goals. And we'd also like to go ahead and support the business association also. So I think that if we can go ahead and kind of get to a point where we understand, I know we're all hot now, but it's going to be raining in another month or so. And we all know that the Ione clay, that doesn't really work too well. We've worked really hard trying to get our unit number 1 and our last 47 lots in Wildflower prepared and ready to go. We've accomplished about 95% of that. And we would love to go ahead and be able to utilize some of the spoils from that, help them level out their project for the parking garage or for the parking lot, as well as having a little bit of extra room on the side of the arena. So the people that are going to the soccer fields and the people that have horse trailers there utilize the same space would really create a big asset for the city. So if there's any technical questions, I'll be more than happy to answer it, but I really would like Jonathan to speak to some of the issues when it comes to state and how the water and the drainage is working out. And we've gone ahead and implemented some environmental scientists from Jonathan's group. And I think that they've addressed all the issues that had our concerns.
Great, thank you.
Jonathan Mitchell, city engineer. I want to go ahead and speak to this as well. I was brought in on this project earlier yesterday, so I have come up to speed very quickly. I understand it to be a public-private partnership, which benefits the community. Also, due to the schedule and some of the needs of the project, it's something that we have prioritized to complete prior to the rainy season. And there's many reasons for that, not just utilization for the public need, but also there are additional requirements that are triggered once we enter into the rainy season with a construction project, especially a public construction project. So based on this, the community, the city staff, and development committee is all rallied behind this effort to try and get as much as possible cleared and ready to go. I can say as of about an hour before the council meeting, I received a memo from my environmental specialist stating that she is confident and certifying that we can move forward from an environmental standpoint on this project. And that review included both CEQA as well as a determination from California Department of Fish and Wildlife, as well as consideration of other required permits on the federal level, 401, 404, state 1602. The analysis included determination on jurisdiction from a federal and state standpoint, and we believe that on all those categories, we can move forward to construction immediately. From an engineering review, we completed an engineering review in concert with the project proponents. And from an engineering and technical standpoint, I have no conflict with this project moving forward. I guess what I'm here to say is, from an engineering staff and on behalf of our environmental resource team, I can recommend this project move forward without delay. Any questions? Be happy to answer them.
Are we going to be privileged to the information that you've just talked about? Is there some kind of written report that you're gonna sign, your environmentalist is gonna sign, everybody's gonna sign so that the city is covered for all of this activity? Because what we have now in front of us to look at is basically two pictures and a 2-paragraph letter.
Yeah, so thank you, great question. What I understood from our city manager here in presenting this item is it intended to be an informational item, but the teams were able to rally. And so based on that, a staff report isn't before you. And frankly, it wouldn't have been possible in that period of time. But the fact that we do have an environmental technical memo that is prepared, it's in my inbox prior to this meeting. Me operating as a function of city staff, I can say that we have this memo complete and in city files. So in other words, the environmental technical report is complete in file. Typically that's sufficient. Now, of course, if we had the opportunity to prepare a staff report, that would be ideal. It would include some of those details, but even in a staff report, the memo would not be included. It would only state that it was complete.
Well, I'm sure I speak for everybody up here that we appreciate your prompt attention to this. I think I called Mr. Lee on Friday to have this put on, which was very last minute. My only concern, and it may not be a concern, is the entrance. Because it's not an approved entrance for a heavy flow of traffic. That's.
Okay, so understanding your, statement, I'm not
Yeah.
taking it as a question, but just, I want to make sure I understand. So your statement is regarding the encroachment from State Route 124, State Route 124 into the parking area at Howard
Right,
Park.
right.
And whether or not that encroachment is designed to handle the capacity. And so I wasn't prepared to speak to that question. But I am processing that in my head right now. I think the safe answer is I'd like to get back to council on that. However, I could speak to perhaps just in generalizations, that the existence of parking is not a trip generator. So in other words, how we typically look at things like new development as we look at things is what is the trip generation at the facility? And that is not changed by this project. We're not adding, say, a structure or a building that would have classes or community events that would exceed existing capacities. And so by including additional parking, we're only better serving the needs of the existing trip generation. And so without, having to go back and analyze what engineering was done for the original encroachment onto the state route, I would presume that it was designed in accordance with the trip generations at the facility at that time. So I think it's reasonable that perhaps that statement is addressed in with previous engineering and studies.
Yeah.
So
I don't think there ever was an engineering report on the entrance to the arena. I think if anything would trip it, it would be soccer season.
yeah, so encroachment onto the state highway would require an encroachment permit through the state Department of Transportation. So it's reasonable that such an encroachment was in fact approved by the state at that time, which would include an engineering analysis. And part of why I'm speaking to that is the design of this parking lot, as I understand and working with the community, was specific so that it did not interact within the state right of way, which would trigger additional state review, not just from an engineering standpoint, but also from an environmental standpoint, and would cause the project to move into a different type of nature, more extensive project, additional work. So this is on site. It is a city project in partnership with the community and the developments. And based on that, currently it doesn't engage with the state right away.
Okay, well, it sounds like you've covered it all. Any clarifying questions from council for Mr. Mitchell?
My only concern is with the agenda saying it's a presentation and not any action. Are we covered if we do take action tonight?
So depends on what kind of action we're talking about here. So is the action direction to your city staff to conduct the project? If that's the case, direction's fine.
Okay.
I don't know of any authority
So we can do it as
that you're gonna
direction.
need aside from whether or not this is considered a project and not having.
No vote.
Not having any, review of the technical memorandum from the environmental. I couldn't comment on that. But as far as direction to city staff to continue proceed from a presentation, that's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, we'll open it up to public comment.
Dave Livingstone, Wildflower. I had a question that the parking area, is that adjacent to the racetrack? The west side of the racetrack? Because I'm on,
It parallels 124.
oh, on 124, so it's on 124 from, okay, so Evelyn Bishop Hall down to, the front, so that's right up by there. Okay, yeah, there's trees and everything else in there.
Well, if
Yeah.
you see, this is a plot plan done by the city prior. And they had designated that whole area to be clear cut for parking.
Okay,
So we're not asking for something, and if you read my letter, which I know you didn't, it states that we know there are some big trees there. We're gonna make every effort to work around the big trees to get an entrance going to Evelyn Bishop Hall. We're probably gonna take at least one down. But the big trees. The next picture. This, there's the aerial view of it.
right, okay, all right, no, that answers my
This
question.
goes like this. These big trees here, we intend to leave as many of them as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My second comment is on John's comment about traffic in and out of the park area. And people, when they go to soccer games or baseball games and so forth, they use any access they can find. So they're not looking for an official entryway. They're using any way they can find in and out of there. So I'm not certain if that impacts this project. So I would think, thanks to Mr. Borge, I mean, what a community opportunity to work with the city in offering that equipment. I go by that park every day and I see the ton of equipment that's over there. And I think he said it was what, 90% completed? So you still have pavement to do. Is that correct? Okay, so that is a good opportunity for the city if they want to move forward with this to go ahead and take advantage of that. I mean, that's a tremendous a piece of gratitude to the city to have that equipment made available. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dave.
Gary Thomas, 125 Maple Street. I've heard others saying that they're talking with Caltrans about the entrance and so forth like that. That's a little bit disturbing. I think George is competent, and I think that should be your point person to be talking to Caltrans and so forth instead of having all these. I heard it from another committee recently and so forth, so I think it's going to get confusing and everything else, and let's let George do his job. I think he's competent and can handle it, so thank you. That's the entrance comment.
Any other public comment? Chief? No?
Nobody on Zoom.
Okay, well, we'll close public comment.
I have a comment. Well, I'm gonna sit down. It's in your hands.
Go ahead and sit down. Thank you, Jake.
I would like to make a motion to move forward on the Howard Park project.
We're not taking a vote.
I have a couple of questions
Yes.
from the council standpoint. I'm a little concerned that we don't have anything in writing and approved and signed off on for a project like this. Your comment that we can give directions to move forward, is that we're not, does that mean we're approving the project?
No, so my understanding from staff was that they were still working through this. Moving forward would be bringing back any sort of determinations. If there are no determinations, like for example, CEQA. If there are no CEQA determinations after discuss with staff, I'm not aware of this project, but not trying to be an obstacle. If there aren't any determinations that need to be made by council, your direction to staff would be appropriate, and then they could move forward. You're aware of it. And then that could be all operated underneath George and his authority as city manager. In the event that we do have to have the council make some formal determination for, project related, then we would have staff continue to move forward, work that up and bring it back to your next regular meeting.
So we can give direction with the caveat, if there, especially CEQA, it comes back to us.
Yes,
Okay.
in the event that as staff, and when I work with staff and I'll work with Jonathan and his team, if that's our recommendation, yes, otherwise it would, you're just effectively
Having,
agreeing with George's direction as city manager and carrying out that project.
Okay, so it's a giving direction. It's not approving a project.
Right, because the difference here is there's no city funds that are going to be, that you're allocating to this project. It's all being donated, so it's going to be administered and overseen through your city departments. And
And that just changed here. We weren't aware. The information we got was that it was going to be three-way, but
Yeah,
now
city being
it's,
one.
now the city has no responsibility.
and in the event that that changes, that will come back.
That would
because
be
you hold the
something
purse
that needs to
strings
come back.
to be able to authorize
Okay.
that payment.
Okay, well,
Okay, so
I think direction is, who do we give direction to, Mr.
So unless
Matt?
there's any opposition on the board, the direction can be given to George.
George, are you,
So-
do you have all you need?
Everything you need. just your
Okay.
support is all I need.
Okay, great. Thank you then. Thank you, Jake. Where'd Jake go? There he is. Thank you, Jake.
Thomas.
and thank you to Rotary and the IBCA and
You guys.
all you guys.
All of you.
And Mr. Borsch.
And Mr. Borge, big time,
Yeah.
huge investment. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is a discussion action on assignment of franchise agreement with ACES to Delta Container Corporation Republic Services.
Yes, Madam Mayor, council members, we have a request, ACES Waste Services here tonight to do a presentation coordinated by Mr. Panasco regarding their request to have their license franchise transferred to Republic, who they would like to transfer it to. So I'll transfer it to Mr. Panasco.
Thank you, council. The resolution before you establishes the factual circumstances as to how we got to a franchise agreement with ACES. What your ordinance says about when a franchise agreement is to be transferred, and also what your current agreement says that you shall do upon the written notice of transfer. So upon receipt of the written notice of transfer, the city then requested the additional information, and that additional information is the capacity of the proposed assignee as to financial competency, performance and service record and equipment inventory, a guarantee of performance by the assignee based on financial security and insurance and bonding capability, and any other pertinent evidence. The ACES, upon the city's request, provided such information, confirming that Republic, the proposed assignee, will be able to satisfy those conditions. So we're asking tonight that the council make those findings. And what your agreement says is that they can go ahead and assign the franchise agreement, and you have discretion to say no, but you've agreed in your franchise agreement that it cannot be unreasonably withheld. So unless there's some sort of substantive reason as to why you believe that the franchise should not be transferred, now would be the time to ask ACES. ACES is here and can respond to those. Staff has found no reason substantively why. The only thing on this resolution that is not filled in is you'll see, and it's the amount for the franchise transfer fee. This is supposed to be revenue net zero to the city. So the transfer fee would include costs such as administrative staff time to do any sort of administrative staff or administrative transferring. I don't know what's involved with regard to, software or if there's anything at all. Legal costs, so that would be the cost that for me reviewing the agreement, me reviewing the information and me preparing the resolution. Those are going to be minimal costs in the context of this deal, but that's the only thing that's not there. What I would recommend is that staff or that the council approve this resolution and give George the discretion to identify those costs when they're known, put those costs into the resolution, and we'll negotiate that with ACES as we go. If there's any issues related to the cost and amount that we can't come to an agreement between the two of us, then we would bring that back to council, but I don't see any big issues because the number's not going to be significant.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Is someone from ACES?
Good evening, Paul Molinelli Senior with Aces Waste Services. I'm here tonight. First of all, thank you for addressing this issue. We appreciate it. I'm here with my two sons, Paul and Jason, who serves as our legal counsel, and Johnny Plass Jr., who is our Assistant General Manager, and Anthony Mann, who represents Delta Container. It's with mixed emotions, I must tell you. We've done this a long time, but I think it's time. We vetted other companies, and we found Delta Republic to be the best one that we think will serve the city of Ione. And by the way, I think we've created a good place in this community. We're not going to, and I've told Delta and Anthony, we're going to monitor their behavior. My son Paul will stay on as an employee. I will serve as a consultant, and then I told him that my consulting will be to make sure they do what they're supposed to do, so they don't sully our reputation. Anthony's here, and he'd be glad to answer any of your questions. But I'll leave it at that. Believe me, it's not easy, but we're ready to listen to what you might have as a question.
Thank you. I can tell it doesn't, it's not easy.
It's not.
Okay. Is there any clarifying questions from council?
I just want to clarify, Andy, that you have reviewed and seen the A, B, and C documents that you requested, and they are within, that you're fine with those, and that they meet the standards that the city should required.
Yes, that is correct. I also want to just point out to the council that effectively nothing will change other than the trucks that are doing the service. Your franchise agreement will remain in force, and I believe it goes through 2035. So there's, I think, roughly 10 or 11 years left on that agreement.
May I add to that? Thank you for saying that, because that's, nothing will change. Our employees are going to remain. You might notice a different sign on a truck, but everything else will be the same.
Okay. Okay, then we'll open it up to public comment. Anyone on Zoom, Chief?
No.
No? Okay, we'll close public comment. Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion approving the assignment of amended and restated franchise agreement for solid waste collection, Aces Waste Service, Inc.
Second.
All in
Before-
favor?
Madam Mayor, before you take a vote, that's inclusive of the resolution.
Yes, I would include the
Thank you very much.
resolution in that. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right,
Aye, yes, sorry.
thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the last item is going to be the report on Castle Oaks entrance landscaping work completed versus contract.
Madam Mayor, council members, at previous council meeting, there was a request to ensure that the contract of the entrance of Castle Oaks was completed compared to the contract. So Mr. Ken Mackey, who is a Public Works Director at the moment, did go out there and met Mr. Urban as well as Mr. Strong.
Echo Urban.
Mr. Strong.
We knew who you meant.
To go over the comparisons, and Mr. Mackey is here tonight to give the report. Mr.
Thank you,
Mackey?
George.
Good evening, council. Sorry, we just broke a fire call down on West Marlette, so apologize. Under the direction of the council and the city manager, I did meet with the contractor out on site and determined that everything that I had given to me regarding the contract and the proposal on the map has been met with some alterations that they advised were approved by the city engineer at the time. So the obligations and the commitment that they made under the contract were met as listed in my report to you. Do you have any questions regarding the staff report?
Yeah, council, any clarifying questions for Chief Mackey?
I have none. None.
If anybody did see the rock pile this weekend, it was because they dropped about, I don't know, 10 yards of rock. Their tractor broke down on Saturday. It was re-brought out Sunday, but we did provide barricades and cones, so it wasn't a permanent feature. It was only about a 12-hour issue.
Okay. We'll open this up to public comment.
I'm Patrice Prest, the Castle Oaks Landscape Committee of One. I got a phone call, I guess, I think it was last week.
Correct.
Yeah, that I was only given like a 5-minute notice. I think you were given a short notice to if I could go out there and meet Eco Urban and Mr. Mackey. And I was in a meeting with a medical director for the state of California, so I couldn't leave that call. I wasn't able to meet, so I just kind of gave him a rundown of what our concerns still were. We do see there still is not agreement with what it looks like in the design, but like I said before, that horse has left the barn. What we're concerned with now, and I think it was stated at a couple of meetings ago, that the frontage is, we're concerned with the maintenance that is still kind of not happening when this work is continuing, the regular maintenance of the lawn being mowed and things being taken care of, lawn being watered, the only grass we have in the front. And so we'd kind of like some reassurances that if this contract continues, that improves. And that we do see, I went out there when I drove out today, the lawn's not mowed, part of the grass is dead. I think Diane and you, Ms. LaFane, told them that when there's a broken sprinkler, he said that there was problems with broken sprinklers to bring it to the attention of the city to get reimbursed and get those sprinklers fixed, and he had not done that. So I don't know if he's done that yet, but he had not done that up to that time. So we still have concerns about the maintenance, and I did express, I think that to you, that that's still a concern of ours.
Thank you, Patrice. Yeah,
From my
please.
understanding, the maintenance of the entrance where the grass is not part of Mr. Strong's contract.
Then whose is it?
So therefore, there is no contract. So therefore,
They have a maintenance contract.
Okay, so that was my understanding for the front.
Yes, here's the diagram of everything,
so then I will
what they
follow
are
up.
to maintain.
I will follow up with that contract then,
Yeah.
if that's the case.
And
During-
this was put into play in when we approved the contract for the rehabilitation.
Mr. Mackey?
Last year.
All the information I was provided and asked to do was for the medium strips and not the exterior portion. She did bring it to my attention. I noted it down in the staff report as to the concerns by the citizens. That's in the first three. So everything's been very transparent on the report. The exterior portion, there's a lot of broken pipe and sprinkler parts that's caused the trees to die out there. That wasn't part of the bid process on theirs. There's multiple dead trees that need to be removed that have gotten root structures around the plumbing, piping system. The irrigation boxes are put in probably original back in 91. And they're in desperate need of replacement. I also put the estimated cost down on our report as to what it would cost to bring everything up to par.
So the rehab cost for the sprinklers repair and replacement were not in part of the bid.
Not where I could find or my understanding on any of it, no. And this was all done between, from the way I've read this, the city engineer, the former city manager, and the ECO.
Okay, well, in the original, in the contract or the bid or the what became the contract, there is irrigation parts and, you know, that was included as part of this. If we're gonna rehab a landscape area, it only makes sense that we have to give it water.
They're on a drip
Isn't it an
system, right?
expectation that when we see irrigation parts in a cost sheet, that we are of the expectation that there's going to be sprinklers?
Without knowing that exact contract that you're referring to, I went out with the obligation on the medium strip only, and to view what was in the front. And
Is that where you're talking about, is in the median strip for?
the medium strip, the sprinklers were all removed and a drip system was put
Okay,
in.
so we're not, you're talking about the front.
Correct,
Okay,
correct, and-
my mistake.
Yeah, no, but that was all taken care of and all the drip systems are in place. There is in phase 3 is in my staff report, it shows that the control box has been stolen and it'll need to be replaced. And it's a solar control panel. So that's why the cost is elevated compared to an electrical box.
Okay. Have those things been requested by
Yes,
the?
That's
yes, they have.
2,000.
And that's in the staff report also.
I saw that there was a $2,000. I didn't see what was actually
It is on
page.
phase 1, almost second paragraph to the bottom. And then there's 5,000.
$5,000 worth of parts. Okay, and they have a
And-
delineation of what those
And
are.
and that was the additional would be to upgrade the sideline areas that were done by the developer. And that also is on the other side, the west side on the new development phase 8, I believe it is, or development number 8. And it was put in by the development, but nobody's maintaining it. With the sprinkler heads that they put in, they're approximately 7 feet apart, which it saturates everything. Our water bill is enormous. And with the reduction of the sprinklers and making a drip system, it would reduce the cost in our water bill tremendously, and the weed abatement portion that takes place in to maintain those flower beds.
That'd be fairly fast, wouldn't it, with the cost of water?
Pardon?
So that'd be fairly fast with the cost of water?
Yes, they said they could make the adjustments but they need a council approval for the modification or the engineer's approval for the modification.
So on item number C, I'm assuming these are your questions. Do you have enough staff to handle the project and ongoing maintenance? And the contractor advised that he does have enough.
Correct. That was citizen concern
okay.
questions that I brought forth that I was given prior to going out to meet with them. And so I did ask those questions to them point blank. And during the initial rip up and tear out is what people thought they were lacking on the staffing. After it's done, they'll have adequate personnel to maintain everything.
Oh, I see what he's saying. He's saying once we remove all the old vegetation and irrigation systems and install all the new project, it'll be an easier system to maintain.
Yes.
I feel like we just keep doing this over and over and over. I know.
I inherited this and
I know you did, Dave.
I'm
know
going
you
under
did.
council direction and I tried to meet everything that the council would like.
And so do we need to look at this maintenance agreement? Because clearly it seems like something is
Well, at this point, with the changes that they've made, the level of maintenance that is now required is significantly less. Am I misspeak when I say that, Chief?
No, you're not.
Okay. So we have a material change in the level and scope of work that the maintenance agreement it would be working under. And I would say that I would agree with you, Mayor. We need to take a good look at this and maybe put it out to a bid for a different price, given the new scope of work. And the fact that the maintenance agreement that we had did include the front and that has not been maintained.
I'm not sure if the city engineer has any further on this at all. He's been more active in it than I have up until now. So Jonathan, do you have anything?
Thank you, Chief Mackey. I just want to only make one point of clarification. My scope on this has been limited to the capital construction project only. And it was primarily focused around generating the scope and fee portions of the contract from an engineering standpoint. So not at all related to the ongoing operations and maintenance. And so I don't have knowledge regarding those activities.
Okay.
And I have completed recent review of phase 2 of the capital portion of the project. And again, this is technical. It's only conformance that what the constructed improvements match the specifications provided in the contract, which they have. So that's the only additional items I can add to this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But Patrice, it sounds like listening to your complaint over the last year and a half, that it is the maintenance.
It is the maintenance. It started off as the maintenance of the medians and the frontage. Then it turned out to be, and this was when Stacy was mayor and going even before that, and I think 3 city managers. And nothing was really done. And then we started to get some movement and with the help of the city engineer as well, we started getting some movement. And the design was not what we wanted, but the original design, was way too expensive. So that part, like I said, that horse is out of the barn. The problem is when this work has been done and previous to before the work started was maintenance, that the maintenance was not being done. The front was let go. And I even just mean the grass at the very beginning of the entrance, like the lights are out now and the lights were out before. And I called and Janice got actually the lights back up working in the entrance. But we've complained from the get-go as to just regular maintenance that the city is paying for, not the install of the medians. It was during
Keeping
this
it up.
time, just keep it up.
Okay.
Just keep it up. And that's all it's been.
Okay, thank you. What do we want to consider? What's the termination on that agreement? Do you have it?
We extended the original contract
The maintenance contract?
with the contract for the rehab project. So we approved the maintenance extension and the maintenance and the rehab project at the same time.
Is there a
So
term?
this is the contract that I have. Janice, if you have it, there isn't another contract that you're aware of. We just extended the original contract with Echo Urban, correct? Right. So this is the standing contract. I don't see, I mean, we've had a material change in scope, so I don't know if, Andy, if that's something that we can use. I'm not sure. You haven't seen this, I assume?
Yeah, I'm looking at them. What I'd recommend is I'll work with George and come to some sort of determination. And if we need to bring it back to council, we'll bring back to council the fact that if there is an enforceable contract right now, if there's not, and this would be direction from council to, if there is no contract, put together some sort of competitive process, RFP, RFQ, to put together and then get the results and bring those back to you. So that would be
Yeah,
my
it
recommendation.
seems to make more sense to have them separate.
If there is an enforceable contract, is there
a reason?
Well, is there, we can bring that back to the next council meeting? Is that what you're asking? If we find,
Yeah,
if we find it
we
enforceable.
definitely need to know that if this is the enforceable contract, which I believe it is. And if so, it was based on, the original median and the original landscaping.
Yes, so if,
So it's now significantly changed from what we had originally they were maintaining.
yeah, so the original agreement was in 2021.
It started, looks like it was December 2020, January 2021.
Yeah, so there was a 2-year agreement, so it'd be to 2023. You then extended that through 2025, so you have a few months left on it.
Mhm.
So if you've got a few months left on it, there's one of two ways. You can have a mutual, there's probably a termination provision. I'm not gonna read through it, but if there is, we could bring that back. Otherwise, we could bring back, put together.
We
an
need to find
RFP.
out who's assigned to it.
Well, put together an RFP right now so that
Yes.
you would be able to, when it comes January time to, consider renewal, you'd be right in a good spot for you to award.
Well, and
Okay.
in the interim period, if we're going to keep them for the maintenance agreement through the end of the contract, then the contract needs to be adhered to, because right now the maintenance process on the front is not being done.
Yeah, as with most contracts, there's always going to be different interpretations as to what's to be done. So if that's the case, I would recommend that you have your city staff work with Mr. Strong now. Let
Yep.
let Mr. Strong now know, what's going on so that he can communicate to George and George can bring that back to you all as council.
All right. Thank you, Randy. Go ahead.
I just had a comment on the entryway too. And first of all, I just want to thank all the residents here that seem to take an interest in it. I think that's great. I'm a resident of Castle Oaks, and like all the residents of Castle Oaks, I pay the CDF fund. I'm paying about $800 a year. So that's, I don't know, 300,000 for the development that kicks in. So I would expect they could keep the grass green for that. And I've lived on 3 golf courses, and this one, it needs some work. My main question is, all the dead magnolias and little cypress that he planted out there before the wind blew them over, and the bushes, the new plantings that are already dead. So I'm a little concerned that be repaired, and is there a final payment that's withheld until that's proper, or how that's done? That's my concern.
We were
sense?
told, we were told that the plants were to be replaced, that anything that was dead, he was replacing.
Okay, when would it be replaced? Probably
Well-
one after the heat's over, I guess,
I can't answer that.
but it would be, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Jonathan?
Jonathan Mitchell, I'll go ahead and address that. So on a capital project, we do have the provision of a warranty. So that is what's designed to cover this type of item. And when that warranty is exercised, it's based on an analysis of the completed work, and we'll give it some time into the seasons and that type of thing can be made.
But if they had been.
Okay, we're not-
water, get there. And when you put in new plantings like that, sometimes you have to add water. and it's-
I know. Okay, this is, yeah, we're in past public comment. Otherwise we'll be here just chit chatting all night.
Madam Mayor, may I comment?
Yes, you may.
Part of the watering issue was the broken pipe that we didn't know took place out in the undeveloped section that the weed abatement disc had hit. So when the water pressure came on, it wasn't coming out at all.
Yeah, I saw that in your report.
And we'll be billing
Correct.
the
The
developer.
developer
those.
for the weed abatement
Right.
portion.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you, council.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, so, got my papers all mixed up again. So the recommended action is to allow the contractor to complete phase 3 and have council approve the additional equipment items. Oh, so you want us to approve the extra expense of near 10,000, 8,000. Is that your recommendation? approve the additional equipment items listed that are missing or broken and give direction on replacing the sprinklers in phase 3. So on and so on.
That was the contractor's statement to me. That's how much it would cost to make the upgrades or the additional repairs.
$10,000.
Yes.
And do we can we get some
Bids?
documentation to what that?
I will
includes?
I will do that as soon as the council gives direction on it, and
Okay.
I will take and get him to send it in.
Madam Mayor. To Member Ratten's point, there's provisions in the agreement for changes to the agreement to establish additional costs. That should be no issue. And there's
The change order
provisions,
process.
there's
Change order,
provisions
yeah.
within there too.
Yeah.
So that's what would happen.
But it hasn't yet. That's why I was asking. So.
Okay, do we need to take action here?
Sounds to me like it's
It's just
direction through
kind of
staff.
the way it's worded. So,
Yeah, I don't see any action unless you're just there, you're
well,
getting a report.
you're saying, have council approve the additional equipment items listed. So that's action.
Yeah, you could, if that's the case, then you can designate, you can delegate that authority to your city manager.
Yep. So we don't need a vote. We just need direction. Okay, George. You got it. Okay, great.
Do we need additional direction to review the maintenance agreement and the contract?
That's what we'll be doing.
Are we doing that? So that's direction
Direction
was
safe,
given
yeah.
as well.
So we'll have that on future
Yep.
agenda items. All right. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
We already did public comment, didn't we? Okay, now we're going to reports and communications from city attorney.
I have none.
Reports and communications from city manager.
I have none at this meeting, but we do have a finance report from Ms. Jody Stenick, if we get to it.
Hello, council. As you notice in our informational thing, we started with the treasurer's report starting this last month, and that will continue to go forwards. And because it was our first one, we didn't really get a lot of time to weed it out. We just kind of did an old one and just kind of put the most current information in there. But one of the things that we're going to try to do is do a comparison from a prior year. And so that didn't get put on there. So I had told George that we were talking about that. So I just pulled them up just so we can kind of look at it. And specifically because we are very proud of this, we're looking at the interest that we received. And as you can see, this monthly interest for this July was $72,332. I will say though that 20,000 of that really needs to go back into the prior quarter because that was from LAIF, but that still is over 51,000 that we received in just 1 month.
Okay.
Last year at the same time, we got $1,135. So we netted, if we even take out LAIF, $50,000 more. The prior month was June. This year we got 48,000. Last year we got $112. In May, this year we got 42,370. Last May, we got $78. So we're just trying to show that these look like little changes, moving money around to get this better interest is really going to create a very big positive cash flow for this year. And I project that for the fiscal year 24-25, we're going to make about 650,000 in interest. And that is just our money sitting there making us money. So I just want to present that. We're going to start trying to add this stuff to the report, but since we couldn't get it out soon enough, like I said, because it was our first one and we're just trying to get something to you guys. But we're very excited about this extra money that the city's going to have and looking forward to doing good stuff with it.
Great. Thank you,
Great.
Jody.
Thank you. I
We're looking forward to
actually
it, too.
think you should be at the front of the meeting and not at the end. Well, a lot of people leave.
But only if it's good news.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to council comments, committee reports, future agenda items.
First.
I had my Air District Board of Directors meeting. We just voted on the final budget for 24-25. There was a vote to extend the rule of Title V, which is Air District rule. We don't have Title V anymore because Ampine was only Title V and it burned down. So the county is kind of exempt from that. George, would you like me to report out on Main Street?
Yes.
Okay, so I've been dealing with George Reed and Caltrans most of my life anyhow. So when I saw what happened on Main Street, they said that it was completed and they're done. They're just going to stripe it. So I got in a huge argument with George Reed. Got a hold of Caltrans, worked my way up the ladder. I talked to the senior engineer, which is a very nice gentleman. And I told him, I know you have never got out of your office and been to Ione. You need to come here. So he brought himself and the head of District 10 down here and came down and apologized profusely. They said, you're right. They did it completely wrong. They're on it now. They're doing a big investigation to George Reed of what happened. I was out there the night they did it and I was literally sticking my finger in the street, pulling tar out of it. And they said I was lying when I had to finally get on FaceTime with the superintendent of George Reed. So anyhow, Caltrans is doing a good job of getting to the bottom of it and they will fix it. So.
Well, that's good because I had a lot of complaints.
Yeah, we all did.
Yeah. The businesses, no notification to the businesses. That partially should fall on us. The streets are a mess. Trucks, cars, dirty, filthy.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that a few citizens did send emails to District 10. So hopefully we can get that
I
resolved.
also sent some emails to the District 10 rep.
Yeah, well then they heard us. Mr. Mitchell, Councilman Mitchell?
Attended the AFPA meeting to distribute Measure M funds. The fire chiefs of the various cities and unincorporated did an amazing job of coming together and figuring out a very complicated system of distributing funds and came to an agreement. Basically, we just said, yeah, great job. And they passed that. I went to the Amateur Council of Tourism meeting. They are working on a visitor's pamphlet that'll have a map. George, I'll get with you. You and IBCA, we want to see what we may want to see on that map. And I thought you might want to attend the next meeting. It's very well attended and quite a bit going on tourism. That's all I have for now.
Vice Mayor Ratton?
I have no committee reports. We have a econ development coming up on the 29th. I would like to get a wastewater meeting scheduled if we could. Just looking at my calendar. If we could do it the last week in August, at the very least, the first week in September. Before the 6th, because after the 6th, I'll be out of town.
I thought we said the 29th.
That's
Econ.
That's the econ meeting.
All right. Oh, you're talking about wastewater.
Wastewater.
Okay.
So if we can schedule something before the 6th of September for a wastewater meeting to go over all of the orders that we've received and such. I think that would be very productive.
Okay.
Is that all you have?
That's all I have.
Okay. Looks like we've almost taken care of all of my items. Future agenda items, we've got those down. Over the weekend, some of us were invited to attend how do you say it? Dominico. It's a new winery on Sutter Ione Road. They purchased the property about 24 years ago. And now they are building their destination location. They have big plans on putting in an outdoor amphitheater. Great family. Chief Alfred was there, Sergeant Scroy, Vice Mayor Ratton. And they are very excited to generate tourism in Ione. So you guys should go on out there and greet the family. They're a great family. And we were excited to see their plans.
And their wine is good too.
The wine was good, and so was the
It's
food.
important.
Chief Alfred enjoyed the lamb skewers.
Very much so.
Very much so. Okay, we are going to go to closed session. Do we have any public comments on the closed session items? I think that's a yes.
Hi, Stacy Mitchell. The question I have, we had a kind of thing about the golf course. The only thing that I really want to know is, okay, I know the city of Ione owns the golf course. But from what I understand, they don't own the,
Buildings?
the clubhouse. Well, one at the clubhouse, yes, thank you. Okay, is that what it is? Is that what's in question is the clubhouse?
Andy, can we respond to that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and that's it. So basically, as a lot of people that are just kind of stressing out, and I understand why, they're afraid that the golf course is going to close. Well, I know that the city owns the golf course, so I don't think we're in that jeopardy, correct?
That I can't answer you right now. That is that's delving a little deeper than
It's
Okay.
under negotiation.
it's under
Yes, under-
negotiation.
Okay. I mean, I know there's like a 65-year lease and we've got approximately 35 years left of the lease, so.
27, I think.
Oh, 27, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't exactly sure when
Yeah.
the date was because I thought it was 91, but anyway, okay, that's what I wanted to kind of clarify. I did put a copy of the lease on next door so that people could see it because Janice was kind enough to, help with this because I just don't want anybody stressing out, there's
Yeah.
no need to. And
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
so
We
don't need
understand.
to lose the golf.
Well, that's probably going to happen anyway, but yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any comment on?
No.
Zoom? No? Okay. We are going to resume to closed session.
Am I too late to comment?
Mr. Armstrong.
Too soon.
Gavel.
Gavel too soon? But you're gaveling.
Good, gavel, gavel away. Yep.
To call I lost my entire. The regular meeting back to order Tuesday, August 20th, Ione City Council. We have no action to report from closed session. We're just going down the same road we were. And as soon as we have new information, we'll let you know. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bang the gavel again.
Just back.
Oh. Oh, there they were underneath my.
Yourself a